It is always my pleasure to present one of our programs. Education is such a big part of what the Alzheimer's Association does. It's really important that as many people as we can reach understand what Alzheimer's is. So with that, we are going to now look at the part 2, which talks a lot about the care team. All behavior is a way of communicating something. Types of behavior changes, and that's one of the things we see in the middle stage as we progress from a person being able to really function, take care of themselves. As we progress now, people are having more difficulty, and we see that in their behavior. Are they confused? Repetition is such a big part of the disease. And of course, that's one of the things most of us have trouble with, because maybe some of you have experienced this. A person says the same thing over and over and over and over until you want to go, oh. But that is part of the process. And so it's really important that we recognize that and come up with some methods for dealing with it. Another type of behavior change that we start to see is agitation and aggression. And again, this is probably not part of the person that you used to know, and again, it's important to remember this is part of the brain disease that Alzheimer's is. It's not something purposely aimed at you. It's part of what's going on in the brain. Hallucinations and delusions with some of our Alzheimer's, and again, it depends what part of the brain is affected, people start to have hallucinations and of course delusions. And it's very hard to to know that. It's hard for the person to go through. They believe they see what they see. And sleeplessness. People, we all need to sleep. It's really important for the brain that we sleep. But what happens many times is a person suddenly can't sleep. We call the sleeplessness. And, one night, maybe even 2 nights, but if that is something that is going on and on and on, we certainly need to talk to the doctor and see what we can do. Sundowning. Now, maybe some of you don't know what sundowning is. Generally, what happens is when the sun goes down, all of a sudden, behaviors change. And they could become agitated, they can become kind of mean-spirited. All kinds of things can happen when the sun goes down. And again, there are things that we can do to, to hopefully prevent some of that sundowning. Bright lights on, shut the curtains or the blinds to try and diminish the sundowning. And unpredictable behaviors and things that our person never did before. And all of a sudden, they're showing these really unpredictable behaviors. Let's talk to Kitty. Let's hear what she has to say. Her husband has a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease.
Bill's diagnosis of Alzheimer's has created opportunities for us to develop strategies to live with it again rather than to die from it. Some of our coping strategies, some of them are funny and some of them are very, very real. Every single morning we make lists. Now sometimes only 2 things get done on the list, but we make lists so there's a plan and there's a program for the day. That's very, very helpful in knowing I have things that I need to do. And I work outside of the home and Bill is at home by himself. So we have to be very organized because he actually does need the structure and he does need the dependability. And in our kitchen, we have duplicates of almost everything so that and we know now if it's lost, it's probably on top of the cat box because for some reason, that's where it goes. We don't know why though. So, and we have a lot of different, we have extra sets of keys everywhere. We have extra sets of glasses, and that's so that no one gets upset or angry or frustrated. And those are the things we're trying to meet the disease right where it is. Some days it's where everything's lost and we can't remember everything. We also have pads of paper next to each telephone. We also have pencils everywhere, so that even if you only have the thought for one moment, you can write it down. And that's been very helpful. Sometimes we find notes and we don't know what they mean, and that's okay too. But we've learned to meet the disease right where it is now. And maybe next week we'll need to have another coping strategy, but these are working.
All right, two really important things Kitty said, kind of meet the disease where we're at. You can't look back, you can't look ahead. Where you are now, that's where you deal with. And structure, it's really important to have structure in the life of someone with Alzheimer's and dementia. Even though maybe they can't say it or express it, they anticipate certain things, a structure of a day, and so important. All right, let's look at confusion. Confusion about what? About people, places, and things in common. And, they can't recognize, like, who are you? They really start to have a really hard time in recognizing people, places, where are they? And even just simple things. So what do? You respond with a simple statement. And you should always respond with a simple statement. You can't get complicated. You can't put too many thoughts into a statement. One simple thing. Remember, your support and caring is felt and appreciated. Martha Tierney is a team leader with the helpline at the Alzheimer's Association National Office. So let's hear what Martha has to say.
The emotional need behind the question, when am I going to go home, is often more about the fact that the person feels like they're in an unfamiliar place. They're feeling disoriented, and they want to get back to a place that feels comfortable and where they know what's going on. They may be at home, and still they say, I want to go home. Creative fibbing is about responding to that emotional need behind that question. You've probably already responded and tried to explain, Mom, you are actually at home. It's okay. Remember, you live here. Here are your dishes. Remember when we bought these? And that's backfired. That seems to upset Mom more. Because in Mom's mind, she is not at home. This is not familiar, and she wants to go home. So the more time you spend trying to explain to her that she is home, the emotional experience you're giving her is the feeling that she's wrong, you're not listening, and that she's not going to get what she wants. Instead of explaining that she is home, you can shift to a creative fib where you're tending to the emotional need. She's feeling disoriented and confused, and things around her are unfamiliar. So she'll say, I want to go home. When are we going home? And you'll say something like, you know what, Mom, I think we'll stay here tonight. I'm going to be here with you. We're both safe. Let's go over here and work on this project. So you've validated her feeling, and you've reassured her that she's safe. And then hopefully you've redirected her onto something else. It's very possible that she'll keep asking again, but if you stay steady and keep your response general, she'll feel reassured.
Martha said some really good things. So we'll take a look, we'll talk about that. First, use brief, simple statements. We said that before, and it's really, really important because their ability to comprehend something big and long just isn't there. Be calm. Sometimes I know it's hard, but always be calm like this. Talk about, whatever you're talking about, nice, even, smiley voice, be calm. If you have to use simple written reminders, that's great. Post them up, do this, we're going here, somebody's coming. I would bet that a lot of us use little simple lists. Anyway, she said divert. what an important concept that is. Diverting is really distracting with a favorite activity. You know your person pretty well. The type of things that they'll go, oh, okay, is a great way to get their mind off. I want to go home. And what does that mean? I want to go home when they are home. Generally, going home in their mind is not the house where they are. It's in their mind, it's something way long ago, something that was calm and peaceful and a happy time, usually their childhood. So when somebody says, I want to go home, it's I want to go to that happy place. I remember that happy place. And that's great. And as we saw with the video, okay, but let's stay here tonight and try and divert them with an activity that they like. That's what we have to look for, that meaning. What does she mean, I want to go home? And certainly always be in contact with the person's physician and, talk to them and, what they know, tell them what kind of behaviors are happening and, see what also they have to say. Agitation and aggression. All right. Now, they can't help it. I want to make sure everybody understands that it's a response to something that's going on in their brain. Again, it's not, to you. It can be from fatigue. Somebody gets really tired and their response to that would be to get agitated or be aggressive. And, certainly I'm sure some of you have as well experienced people who became aggressive. And remember before we said talk calm, talk soft, it's their brain. This is something, it's a brain disease that's going on in their brain. Changes in those sleep patterns, again, it's important to sleep. And if they're not, it's certainly, going to make them tired and can lead to that agitation. Maybe they're in pain. People can't necessarily express those words. I am in pain. You could look, are they touching their head, their stomach, a part of their body that, non-verbally could indicate that some type of pain is going on. And maybe their reaction is to be aggressive. It's just a response. Medication reactions, that's one of the things we should always look at. If something unusual happens, it's not the norm, then I would first, or one of the things I would do first is take a look at the medications. Is there a new medication, something switched around, and is that causing a reaction? Impaired vision. It's very hard if someone can't see clearly. And that could be, due to many things, among being cataracts. Cataracts, your vision is kind of cloudy, it's hard to see who you're talking to or what they're doing, but anything that would cause impaired vision. Hallucinations or delusions, they're not pleasant things. Some people's response would be to become aggressive. Those delusions, maybe someone's coming at them, they got to protect themselves, you don't know what's actually going on, but that certainly is a major cause of agitation and aggression. And then loss of control of inhibitions. I've seen that. I've seen people take off their clothes in the winter and put a bathing suit on. I've seen all kinds of things, but people lose their inhibition. Hallucinations and delusions. Well, we need to work with the physician to figure out why. This is not a normal thing. What has gone on? Again, I always look at medications. I always look to see if there's some type of infection going on because that very quickly can cause that in a person. And as it says, these symptoms are often a part of the disease. Now, you want to look around. Is there something that is triggering that in the environment? Now, sometimes it could be harmless. Sometimes we need an intervention. And, you need to recognize that and be prepared to intervene. However, I would say know the person and know yourself. What are you able to handle? I've had people pick up things and go to throw them. And, okay, I don't think they're really going to throw them, but they might throw them. And know what you can do. Are you going to try and intervene and get it, or what? I know what I did is I just stood where I was and talked softly, and until he was ready to put it down. Know yourself. What are you comfortable doing? I was okay with throwing something at me, because in reality, I knew he wouldn't hurt me. But there are people that will. So, know what you can do as far as an intervention goes. And remember, a person with dementia cannot control these behaviors. You can't say, oh, don't do that, do that. No, it's a brain disease and they cannot help it. And that dementia has changed the way the brain functions. I want to just talk about that video we just saw. She said, remember, never ask a person, don't you remember? No, they actually don't remember. That is part of the disease. That's what's going on. And come up with another word, but don't ask them, do you remember? Because no, that's the problem, part of the problem. Now, persons with dementia may become suspicious of those around them, and they may accuse others of theft or infidelity. And they do, who are you? What do you want? You or she or he took my green scarf. It doesn't make any sense. That they have it, but this is, again, part of what is going on in their brain. And they will accuse people of things that they probably didn't do. So how do you respond to that? Well, don't take offense. Number one, this is part of the disease and they cannot help it. Don't take offense. Don't argue. Offer a simple answer and, again, try to shift the focus, try to divert the thing that they're stuck on, that green scarf. And, those are just some of the ways to respond. All right. Oh, Beverly's husband, Amos, has a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. And let's hear what Bev has to say.
People often ask what sundowning is, especially when I tell them that he gets his sundowners about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There is something about the evening hours when their behavior seems a little different. It's the time when he says he's going home. It's the time he says that he's looking for his wife. It's the time when he wants to leave. He's very disoriented when afternoon comes or when evening comes. And I think a lot of it is because he's very tired. He's had to think, he's had to put on this show for whomever all day long, so that by the evening, everything is just in disarray. He has trouble even walking sometimes in the evening if we've had a busy day. So they call it sundowners because most of the time it happens when the sun goes down.
And it does happen when the sun goes down, but it makes no rhyme or reason sometimes. As Beverly said, they're tired, you had a busy day or a lot of people around you. By the time you get to the late afternoon, you're tired and you start see things, believe things. Again, some of the things that we can do to avoid some of that confusion and agitation is have the person sit in a quiet place with an activity before any other people come home. Keep evening meals simple. Right? You don't need a whole lot of servings of different things. Keep it simple. Keep the light bright. And that's really important. one of the things about sundowning, and maybe you've noticed it since we changed the clocks, it's getting dark early. As it starts to get dark, and they think it's nighttime, they have these different behaviors. Some people think as soon as it's dark, they have to go to sleep, and of course it's getting dark now around 4:30. So not time to sleep yet. So, pull those shades and curtains, have all the bright lights on. And, sometimes that does help. If they want to pace, many people try and get it out of their system by the pacing. It's okay as long as someone is monitoring or supervising it. You don't want them to pace right out of the house. You don't want them to pace where they might injure themselves. So it's okay. We call it supervised. And of course, again, talk to the physician, discuss medication with the physician. There are medications that might be able to help, certainly agitation and some of the results of sundowning. Sleep, right? Sleep changes and interventions. Changes are often due to medical or environmental causes. And of course, we all need sleep, not just a person with Alzheimer's and dementia. And sometimes it is hard to get that proper sleep. Get a good medical workup, make sure there's nothing going on. As a last resort, use medications. There is, all kinds of medications. A lot of them are just very mild, enough to get their brain to relax, enough to sleep. What helps is an active day. Keep someone really busy all day long, no napping or very little napping. Have them do, different activities, whether it be fold, wash, or make a bird house. Keep them busy. And then they legitimately are tired by the time the end of the day comes. All right, let's talk about some FDA-approved treatments. And we have some medications that are out there. They can address some of the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. Some of them you've probably heard of: Aricept and Exelon and Razidine and Namenda and Namzaric, right? So these are all different medications. They work in various degrees. It's almost a trial and error with people, because with some people, Aricept is great, and in other people, doesn't work, or there's a reaction, then you go to the next one, or a combination of them. Always talk to your doctor whenever considering some type of treatment. What is the plus, what are the side effects? And, it helps you make a decision. Alzheimer's Association, Effective Communication and Understanding and Responding to Dementia-Related Behaviors. Those are two of my favorite programs. They offer in-depth information on managing symptoms through behavior and communication interventions. So let's talk about safety concerns that are in this stage, and we'll take a look at the home. It's really, almost mandatory that we assess our home for fire and electrical risks. Take a look where these wires are. Are there too many in one outlet? We plug in a strip and now we have 10 different things hooked into one. Take a look at your home. Can we trip on any of these things? And, that's certainly one of the first things we should do. Install guards on cabinets that contain cleaning fluids or other things that really are hazardous, especially if ingested. Clear away loose rugs and floor clutter, right? There is nothing, more common than tripping on a rug, tripping on something on the floor. Let's talk about activities. I remember I talked about keeping a person busy all day, and it's important to have a schedule. So let's, our activities should balance safety with autonomy, meaning they should be able to do some of it on their own. Simplify activities. You don't want to have an activity with, 5 different parts of directions. They can't follow that many. Simple. Do da 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 da. When that's done, oh, great. Now do, something else. You can help them making a decision and set up plans to cover potentially dangerous scenarios, like a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, have different options that, you can readily do. Driving. Good judgment and quick reaction time are really important if a person is driving. As the disease progresses to this middle stage, the person is less able to drive safely. Deciding what is unsafe is difficult. Some people don't want to give up that driving. Driving to many people means independence. And if they have to give that up, now they are dependent. So, it can be a sticky situation, but safety must be the priority. And if they, you are recommending they don't drive, have alternate plans. Well, I spoke to this Uber company, or, one of your friends also goes to the library when you do, they can pick you up. Have some plans ready so that when you tell a person they have to give up driving, that they're not getting too upset. We just had to do that personally in a family. Someone in the family, she had a pretty new car, but I was actually scared for quite a while. I've been telling the family involved, and something's wrong. And I'm like, I don't think she should be driving. First of all, she gets lost, as soon as she pulls out. And finally, they got to that point, but what they did is, well, you go get your hair done, and such and so goes, you'll go with her, and go here, and they had alternate plans already. And it makes the difference between a good conversation and a very difficult conversation. Safety, of course, is important with everything. Now, some signs of unsafe driving: forgetting how to locate familiar places. So common. This person I was just talking about had, somewhere within the year came to my house. She's looking around and she's going, I've never been here. And I'm like, been here 1,000 times. And she's like, I don't even know how I got here. And it was scary. And, you forget. Failing to observe traffic signs, stop means stop, a red light. If you forget what those mean, it's time to give up driving. Driving at an inappropriate speed, too fast or too slow, becoming emotional, hitting curbs, what a sign. All right, you just can't make those turns correctly. That has to do with spatial abilities, the ability to judge, how to make the turn or how to pull into a parking spot. If your spatial reactions are not working correctly, that's where you have a problem. Displaying poor lane judgment and confusing the brake and the gas pedals, definitely a sign. Kathleen's husband has a diagnosis of Alzheimer's. Okay, Kathleen.
He had driven all his life. He was a cab driver, he was a bus driver, he did all kinds of driving, and his driving really got very, very scary. It was not just getting lost. He just didn't see the lines in the road, and he would go way over them, and he'd be driving on the edge. And so the doctor said, you shouldn't drive anymore. And of course, anyone who has a loved one with Alzheimer's knows that this is probably the worst thing they'll ever hear.
So tips to stop driving. Let others do the driving. Be firm yet positive about driving. Solicit the support of others. You don't have to do these things on your own. You can have the doctor talk to your loved one, another family member. Use authority figures to reinforce the message and experiment with ways to distract the person. And of course, be prepared for driving-related wandering. So what happens if the person won't stop driving? Well, control access to the car keys. We don't have them hanging on that little hook. Put them, somewhere where you have to get them. You could disable the car. You could consider selling the car. You could keep the car out of sight. We did this with my dad. We actually moved it to another location that he actually never found. Write a letter to the State Department of Motor Vehicles. And, that motor vehicles will do certain testing for people that, should not be driving. Guns, firearms, the person's past experience with guns doesn't ensure safety, because remember, they don't remember, right? And locking or disabling a gun definitely is a first step, but to fully protect everyone, remove all guns from the home. We had that in a situation in assisted living where a couple moved in and he had a gun and nobody knew it. One day he got very agitated. Out came the gun. Fortunately, he did not have any ammunition to put in that gun, and that gun was definitely removed from his apartment. Making alternate plans for weapons. Early on, you should discuss the issue with the person as early as possible and enlist help with that discussion. Talk to other family members that are aware of it. Decide how to store, pass on, or dispose of weapons together whenever you can. The son of this gentleman said, "Oh, we thought we had all the guns. I didn't know we had one more." The need for supervision. The person with dementia will need supervision in the middle stage of the disease. And they do resist. You can introduce a companion into the household, and that certainly helps with safety. They do resist in the beginning. A lot of people. Some people like to have the companion, but other people, I don't want a person in my house, or I don't need a person. And, you have to really be insistent, but calm. What about the person that lives alone? Some people live alone in the early stage and into the beginning of the middle stage. Living alone requires increasing degrees of support from care companions, relatives, and of course, there is a residential care setting. Preparing for and preventing wandering. We talked about wandering a little bit before. Without you even knowing, sometimes they leave the house or wherever they are and just go. And then, you ask them where you're going, and they really don't know. Encourage movement and exercise. When you really exercise your body, you're meeting those physical needs that they might not need to feel they need to wander. Ensure all basic needs are met. Basic needs: toileting, nutrition, eating, not being thirsty. You can involve the person in daily activities, right? If you're doing the wash, maybe they can help fold. If you're cleaning up the kitchen, maybe they can either wash dishes or put things in a dishwasher. Whatever you are doing, they might be able to help you. Place color matching cloth over doorknobs to camouflage them so they can't open the door to leave. Another suggestion is to put a dark mat right outside the door, so if they go to open the door and go out, what do they see? This dark black mat. It looks like a big hole to them, and they don't want to step in the hole because, who knows what's in that hole. And that has something that people say has worked. Redirect them, redirect the pacing, restless behavior, get that person moving, and that, certainly can help with that restlessness. And of course, just reassure the person, they need to, know that you're there, you care, it's okay. Prevent the person from getting lost. And there's a couple things you can do for that. Inform your neighbors and local emergency responders of the condition of they have Alzheimer's or dementia. And, people say, well, I don't know my neighbors. Well, you all kind of know each other as far as your car and, what you look like. And, if you tell them, look, if you see my loved one walking without somebody, they have dementia, and it's real important that you call me. Same thing with your police and emergency responders. Let them know who and what and telephone number. And of course, if, this way, if they find somebody or they get a call about a person that they don't know wandering, you've spoken with them and they are now aware. Keep your home safe and secure, of course, and be aware that the person may not only wander by foot, but by car. And, again, if there is a car there, hide those keys. So what are some other things we can do? Keep emergency phone numbers by the phone, right? The time to go look for the number is not when you're having an emergency. Keep a list of physicians' numbers and current medication with doses. Keep legal documents in a secure but accessible location. Check fire extinguishers and smoke detectors. Fire extinguishers are supposed to be checked very regularly. And if you haven't had it checked, it's important. Smoke detectors, have a pattern, first of the month, or, something where, oh, it's the first of this month, and let me see if the smoke detector will go off. And really important, enroll in Medic Alert plus the Alzheimer's Association Safe Return. This is a program through the Alzheimer's Association, kind of like your, your little bracelets and other things that you see. And it will say who you are, who the person is, who to contact, any diagnoses. It's really important to enroll in. If not that, then in something else.
Support public libraries. Like, share, and subscribe for more great videos.